All right, now, so it's your
Sure.
world. I have my paper and my pen,
Okay.
my pen. Okay,
Okay. All
I'm gonna
right.
be quiet and let you run your show. You just let me know what you need, sis, and I'm here.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Hey, everyone's. It has been an impactful day. I wouldn't have expected anything less if it has Casey's name on it. Casey, you know, I tell you all the time, I'm gonna give you your flowers every chance I can. So I am, I am like in awe of you being miles away from us, but you're still so consistent and pouring into us and engaging with us, and that's just a true testament of that you love us. So hopefully we can, you feel the love that we have for you, and the gratitude that we have for you just creating this for us. You will always and forever be one of my favorites, always. So, yeah,
Nah,
yeah.
nah. I gotta give you praise. I appreciate y'all. I do. And I appreciate all the emails and text messages I got prepping for this day. Y'all some riders. But y'all, Neff is off the chain. And she's for real OG. Okay? Neff graced the stage as a speaker in our Winter 2021 Summit, the first one we ever did. I mean, taught me about compassion fatigue. I didn't even know you could be fatigued from compassion, but it made sense. Okay?
Hmm.
The math was mathing. She closed us out right before I did my closer with when the village shows up, baby. When the village shows up, and I'm gonna say you manifested a whole lot of stuff in Blaze, sis. She is back. She is back right now for this, but her partnership continued to grow. She's literally a Table and Tribe, our app on Android and Apple. She's a Table and Tribe community ambassador. She legit shows up. She taps people to be accountability partners with them. She responds to people. She supports their goals for the month. You a rider, sis, and so I appreciate you very deeply. I appreciate you so deeply, and I look forward to continue partnership with you. So thank you. All right, now
Absolutely.
go ahead now,
Okay.
and tell people
All
who
right.
you are now, because you don't skip over who you are. All right, I'm on
Okay.
mute. Just
Okay.
tell me what
Okay.
you need.
All right. So, um, I am Nefertiti McGriff. I am a certified life coach, a pre-licensed mental health counselor, certified trauma professional. I am the founder of Transcendent Living, and what we do, we offer clinical and coaching services, but we specialize. So we address anxiety, grief, depression, emotional trauma, but two very specific things that we address or specialize in is those women, adult daughters who are contending with a mother wound. And so, what a mother wound is having that very toxic or complicated, um, just a strange relationship with your mother. And it's starting to be talked about a little bit more, but we're not really honest about those kinds of things. We're really not honest about the way that we feel when we see our mother's name come across our phone and we're deciding, should I answer this? Do I have the energy? Can I give her what she needs right now? Am I in a place to even deal with this? We don't talk about how it is that we want a hug from our mothers, but it's so awkward because she's not used to being affectionate, but we're affectionate, but we get told that we're being sensitive or that we're soft. We don't talk about these kinds of things. We don't talk about how we're holding that resentment for mama not protecting us when we needed her the most. And so, with that, every Monday, there is from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there is a Release What Mama Did support group. You can go to my booth. You'll see how you can register for that. In there, we talk about any and everything. Now, I do want you to realize that it's not something like, yeah, we're going to talk our crap, of course, because that's part of the healing process. However, the release part is the most important piece of it. So you speak your truth, you speak what it is. However, this work is about you. It's not about mama, because mama did it, and there's no changing that. However, it is about you, how you're showing up, how you're showing up for yourself, how you're showing up in your job, your own job, the job that has your name attached to it, how you relate to people, all those kinds of things. That mother wound runs deep, and it can be passed down through transgenerational trauma. So, past that, the second thing that we specialize in is victims or survivors of domestic violence. Just recently, I was featured on Fatal Attraction on TV1. It was regarding the case of Makiva Jenkins. Thanks, Casey. And unfortunately, her relationship ended in a demise where her husband thought he was still the beneficiary of a $500,000 insurance policy. And so giving, tips about how you can see those things coming from afar, but also helping women to have a safe space. Even if you're still in that relationship, there's no judgment. I've been there. I know what it feels like to have a gun pointed to my head saying, if you leave, you leave in this way, not out that door, but by the bullet in your brain. I know what it feels like to be drugged down asphalt, to have rocks thrown at the back of my head. I know what that feels like. I know how it feels like to still not feel safe after leaving that relationship. But I also know that 1 in 3 women who choose to go back to their abuser almost end up gone. We don't see them anymore. So those two very special things, we make sure that we focus on them. We make sure that we give the women who come to us for that support the space to speak their truths, to recreate their own atmosphere of safety, and we honor every single thing of that. So if you are sorry, I'm looking at this request, I'm going to accept it. So that is what Transcendent Living does. We make sure that you are in a space to live freely, fully, and fearlessly. Those are our hopes for you. And so now that you know what it is that Transcendent Living can support you with, let's talk about some of this transgenerational trauma. So it can be, sometimes it is identified as just generational. Sometimes it's defined as intergenerational. But what it really is, it's the trauma that's passed down through generations. It's something, like I said before, the mother wound that can be passed down from, because maybe mama's treating you because that's how big mama treated her. And Casey, when you said in that panel discussion, being called heifer and not by your real name, that is trauma. That's trauma being passed down. No, call me by my name. We're not doing that. I'm not a cow. Don't do that. But when you're at that age, you don't know. You just know it hurts. You just know it hurts. So trauma is passed through our behaviors or family customs, like name calling, and it is induced, or it can be induced, through in utero exposure. So what does that really mean? Well, the cortisol levels, the different hormonal changes that mom may be experiencing while she is pregnant with baby. And those things lead to what we call epigenetic changes. So those are potential inherited changes in the genome that can be induced by environmental events. So this thing is real. It's not something that we just made up. Hypertension, all those kinds of things. And in the Black community, we are extremely vulnerable to that because we have to deal with not only racism, because The systems that were built were not built for us to thrive in. So all day we've been talking about how differently we are treated in the medical field. And it's real. It's very real. I went to a male white doctor and I told him something did not feel right with my body. And he told me, "You're just overreacting." Overreacted about what, sir? And so I went to a Black woman and she confirmed, a diagnosis that I really needed to get on quickly, very quickly. So, the trauma that I inherited from that, not just from him, but from my mother, holding on to what her mother did and what her mother did, and all I get is a scripture. I don't need a scripture at this time. Mama, I need you to mother me. I need you to hold me. I need you to hug me. But that didn't happen. What I had to do was set that boundary. Mom, I understand this is how you're dealing with it, but this doesn't help me. So please don't do this. It took her about a good 5 minutes to understand where I was coming from, but I stood firm on that. This is not what I need. This is probably helping you not be uncomfortable, but this is uncomfortable for me. So back to the generational trauma and the systems not being built for us to thrive, but just to give us a glimmer of hope, but still keep us in that turmoil. We also have sexual assault that's transgenerational, incest, domestic violence. All of this results in some kind of trauma. So during the sessions, I took some notes that I think are worth mentioning from, to kind of drive this home. So, Casey, you started off with, we see Chase Banks, and we see Wachovia, and we see all these different array, like this huge selection of banks, and no one bats an eye. But here we are. I have to be the only one in this market. If another person's over there, then I have to do it better than them, or I can't do it because there's somebody else and somebody else is already doing it. But that's a good thing that somebody else is doing it, because that means it's needed. But that transgenerational trauma has us operating in the spirit of competition. And that kind of stems from slavery. I'm not gonna lie to you. They had to pit us against each other. House slaves, field slaves. There's that right there. The fairer your skin, the more pleasant you were treated. But we're not here to talk about that right now. So that kind of thinking really push us into a thought of scarcity. Oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? No, as Casey has been saying all day, this is the land of plenty, honey. There is plenty of opportunity for us, plenty, but because we grow up on these customs and these values that, you have to be better than the next person. What if you are equally the same? What happens? We're just a larger force. That's all. That's it. And then kind of like going back to last year, you have someone that you can bake bread with. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, we talked about the resiliency and the independence, and this was from Brittany. She talked about that, and code switching and identity shift. Sometimes the resiliency that we hold on to is what breaks us. Resiliency, yes, it is about adapting to what is better, but some people take it as, I gotta tie my cape a little bit tighter. Sis, if you tie it too tight, you're gonna choke. Don't do that. So think about it this way. You got on a pair of cute high heels, but them things hurting your feet. and you tippy toeing and you like, but I know I look good. And so whether you take them off or not, when you do finally get to take them off, your feet are howling like dogs. Ow! So from that, you're going to learn, okay, maybe I need to either, one, wear these to an event where I'm sitting most of the time. I can bring a pair of shoes, an extra pair of flats with me. Or 3, I just don't wear them at all. That is your resilience, right? That's resiliency. That's your ability to be able to understand, how can I manage through this so next time it's not going to kick my butt so hard. It's not about going through something, pushing through no matter what. It's not about that. And I think a lot of people just misunderstand that term resiliency. That independence, yeah, we could be independent, but listen, as Brittany said, no, I don't want to be all that. I didn't ask for this. I don't want to be all that. So Candace talked about health history. It's okay to not be okay. We learned, if you really think about it, most of us learned about our deficiencies by default. Casey, you said the only time you got labs ran was outside of the US. I'm sure that was by default. You were experiencing something, and so most of us go through life not understanding what's going on. And guess what? That in itself is a family custom that has breeded transgenerational trauma, because we don't know. All we heard about was sugar and gout. That's all we heard about. How do we get that? I don't want that. That sounds bad. So we don't talk. They didn't tell us, okay, don't eat this, don't drink this, move it. They didn't know. And if they did know, because you do have certain elders that they do gatekeep, because they feel like, oh, if I tell this, then I'm gonna feel shamed. I'm going to feel too vulnerable. And feeling too vulnerable, that can lead into other things. Okay. So when we don't have our elders telling us, hey, I have history of, I'm just going to pick diabetes. And so when we go to the doctor and they ask you for that family chart, and you say no for mom, dad, whoever, and they're like, okay, well, you got it from somewhere. You inherit it. And then when you go back and you talk to your folks, and I've experienced it with my mom. Hey, mom, so the doctor said, and this is a true story, the doctor said she did a wellness check on me, and she said that there is heart disease in my family. I am a candidate if I don't continue to do the things that I need to do. And she's like, I don't know. I don't know. Ask my dad. He's like, no. Okay, so either the test lied to me, or y'all just don't know. I kid you not, 3 years later, my mother had to have a triple bypass surgery. She had artery coronary disease, or however you say it. And so now in my head, I'm thinking, okay, here it is. But this is that trauma that keeps us in the dark. But now, unfortunately, that happened. But now I know, okay, that's what that test meant. So now I know what I need to do. So that in itself is a trauma. I was traumatized by it. She's traumatized by it. My siblings are traumatized by it. And so now everybody, instead of being proactive, now we're all reactive. So we also talked about, let's see. No, that was it. So with those notes, I feel like everything is meant to be. Whatever was said today was meant to be. And I think it fits so perfectly in what we're going to do. And so when we talk about trauma, and I really want you to understand how it impacts your brain, the senses. So sense memories play a huge role in trauma. Like there was a comment earlier in the chat where it says the body keeps score. And that's a great book, by the way. And it does. That's very true. It's pre-verbal trauma, when the senses remember the trauma, but someone doesn't have a verbal memory of it. We live that every single day because it's encoded and it's engraved in the brain. So think about this. As children, we don't have an existing framework that helps us interpret trauma. The first thing we learn about the world, boundaries, coping, communicating, everything is through our families. And then everything else we learn about the world is through experience. And we carry all of this with us. And then you wonder why we're not able to problem solve. So now that I have given you this rundown of what transgenerational trauma could look like for you, now's the time to get your pens and your paper. And my first question to you, what do you feel about today's summit and why? What do you feel about today's summit and why?
And now, while they're writing, right, and ladies, do right, be raw, be real. Whew. I want to tell you what comes up for me.
Please.
Okay.
Mhm.
June, you write this on your own journal. Like this is journaling for you to keep and process. You write this in your own journal, and if y'all want to, Neff gonna do what she do, right? But definitely in your own, and you can share in the chat if you want to. My first reaction that comes up is what was sparked by what you talked about in your notes, and I did not expect it, and I think because I was very unguarded. Stuff came up that I would have normally pushed down. Okay. What do you feel about today's summit and why? Oh Lord. So two things came up. One is very controversial. But one is very hidden and I never talk about it. And I'm going to push myself to talk about the hidden thing because it's easy for me to talk about controversial things. Actually, like I'm very guarded when I do that, right? You talked about understanding our family history, right? And like how important it is when we show up to advocate for ourselves or to get insights about ourselves, etc. And Neff, my mom's side of the family, my mom was murdered when I was 1. But I've heard stories of her, right? And I've heard stories of how she tried to commit suicide a couple of times in college before I was born, right? And my grandmother is still living, and I've heard stories of her. I've heard stories of how unstable she was when she was raising my mom and her 2 siblings, and how the burden fell on my mom as a 5-year-old girl and an 8-year-old girl, and she had to grow up really, really fast, but it led to her being depressed older, right? And I've heard stories of my grandmother's uncles and aunties who struggle with mental illness. And how, you know, somebody has schizophrenia, somebody else has bipolar disorder, etc. And Neff, and these are the things I don't say when I go to the doctor's office, but me now after experiencing domestic violence, I have so much PTSD that I'm constantly fearful that I'm going to be like that side of my family. And I have shame around it, not shame around struggling with depression, anxiety, all of these things, but I fear that something has taken me over the edge, or something that's going to take me so far over the edge that I am going to be like my grandmother. You know what I'm saying? That I'm going to be like my, you know, like, and I don't talk about it. So I don't process this at all. Now I need to. Like now I realize I have to feel that. Yeah, Keisha just said, yeah, I have to, right? And I have to Even when I get angry, Neff, like I'm very self-conscious because I'm like, am I being crazy? Like, am I acting crazy? Am I being irate? Like, because I'm so afraid of being like my grandma was when she was raising my mother, or snap, I don't know, but and I need to keep processing this, right? But that comes up for me, and I realize it's something I should bring it up in therapy. I'm doing therapy all the time anyway. Like, I should talk to my partner about it and say, hey, like, I'm so when I get mad in here because I don't know if you think I'm crazy. Like my mama thought her mama, So thank you, sis, for that. And the second thing, and I'm gonna be quiet. The second thing that came up for me was easier for me to talk about, right? When you talked about, this story around resiliency and vulnerability that Brittany Raji shared earlier, and you said sometimes the resiliency we hold onto breaks us, right? I thought about how, even in my family, right? But it was always, but definitely even outside, like when I hear women talking in general, it is like, I know I'm going through this trial to make me stronger, right? Like I know the Lord put me through this because He want to teach me a lesson. Oh, girl, it just grinds my gear because I'm like, why do you think that's the best kind of love?
Right.
Why do you think pain is love? Like, why do you think you have to be punished to learn something? Why can't pleasure be your birthright? Like, why can't you? So that came up for me when you said that because it's still so common, and it's like, no, like growth doesn't have to, like God don't have to teach you something by skinning your knees, dog.
No.
That's it.
Humans do that, not God. If we really truly believe that God is a God of love, why do we constantly personify him as a human? We when we feel like God is disappointed in us, we automatically revert him back to the person, the physical person that we don't want to face when we think they're disappointed with us. We personify him too much as a human, and that's what humans do when you don't do what you're supposed to do. We tough love. So that's trauma. That's trauma. Yeah.
That's trauma. Raven says she wants to share. It's up to you, Neff. Do you want to allow other people to share too? Or do you want to go to the next?
We're gonna keep that in queue because I wanna. So we'll let her, when we do it, we'll let her do that one. And then if anybody want to share for the next ones, so we'll do like one a piece.
Okay, beautiful. Okay. So Raven's up for that one.
All right. What made you feel seen today? What made you feel seen today? Thanks, Jackie. The next one is, what made you feel uneasy and why? What made you feel uneasy and why?
And Neff, I got to tell you, what made me feel seen today was you always do this every summit in a different way, but you saying, you inbox me saying, Casey, make sure you stay hydrated. Make sure you're drinking your water.
I gotta make sure you're good, baby. Okay, so far we have, what do you feel about today's summit and why? What made you feel seen? What made you feel uneasy and why? What trauma do you believe that you have passed on or exposed to your children, the generation under you, or to your partner or spouse? What trauma do you believe that you have passed down or exposed to your children, the generation under you, or to your partner? Okay. Is there anything that you grieve from your childhood? Is there anything that you grieve from your childhood? Is there anything that you grieve from your childhood? And the follow-up to that is, have you made peace with that? Is there anything that you grieve from your childhood? And the follow-up is, have you made peace with that? And so if you haven't made peace with that, we can have a little process session. But if you feel like this is something that you know that is a barrier to your success, a barrier in some kind of functioning in your life, I strongly suggest that you add either a life coach or therapist to your support network. If you've made peace with that, I congratulate you on that, because I know it's not easy. What is one thing that you have noticed that you inherited from transgenerational trauma? What is one thing that you've noticed that you have inherited from transgenerational trauma? And this can be something that has attacked your immune system. It can be the way that you communicate. It could be customs that you have realized that you've kept. It could be anything that has kind of caused some kind of imbalance in your life. The question again is, what is one thing that you've noticed that you have inherited from transgenerational trauma?
You good.
And the follow-up to that is, what ways can you put that to rest? What ways can you put that to rest? And so if you are struggling with deciding on what ways to put this to rest, that means you either need to let this be for now, And when you have time, go home, run some water, make sure it's cold. Let your hand sit underneath that water, that running water, for a couple of seconds to a minute. Breathe. And then change it to warm and see, experience the change in that temperature, but still let it run from your wrist down to your fingertips. Help regulate yourself that way. But you need to come back to, at some point today, what ways can you put that thing that you inherited to rest? Because if this is no longer my burden, then that needs to be no longer your burden. Lastly, are you able to honor yourself without minimizing your experiences? Are you able to honor yourself without minimizing your experience? And so what that could look like, because we minimize our experience, oh, it was nothing. Yeah, it was something. Because it's from you. It was a big deal. Well, yeah, I had this experience, but who doesn't? Doesn't matter about who doesn't. You had it. So are you able to honor yourself without minimizing your experiences? And so all these things, I hope that you're able to understand that transgenerational trauma is something that you inherited, but it is no longer your burden. No longer your burden. Remember one key thing. You are responsible to people, but you're not responsible for them. Unless you have children, that's different. But grown adults, no matter the title, whether it's mom, auntie, husband, sister, adult daughter, you are responsible to, not for. So being responsible to them, meaning getting the information out, seeking the information, being assertive and saying, hey, this doesn't feel good. I don't like when you do this. I don't like when this happens. Or being assertive and asking for that information or researching it. Like, forget her name, but she said, if you're not gonna give me the answer, if you're not gonna help me find a way, I'm gonna make a way myself.
The sequel, yeah.
Yes. So transgenerational trauma, it can stop with you. It can, and it will, because we're here. We know better and we're doing better. No longer our burden. Okay. So you said, what was the young lady's name who wanted to answer?
Raven.
Yes. Okay. We're ready.
Raven, feel free to hit the hand button and come to the stage. Well, honestly, sis, you in the booth. So let me just unhide you. Okay, there you go.
Hey.
Hi. Oh, hey, sugar.
The last Blaze retreat, I was pregnant. But this was really, really good. I did not write, but I typed them in my phone. And I was like, wow, this is making me teary. I haven't really cried all day. Like, this is making me teary. Go back. Today's summit made me feel very grounded. And it solidified a lot that I already knew, but I'm the type of person that I need extra confirmation, like extra I need somebody else to validate it before I believe it. And I know that is rooted in my childhood trauma of like not being believed and of like being talked to in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 3 kids, and I find myself a lot of times at battles with my daughter because her energy is very big. Like she's loud, she's busy, but when I'm in the process of correcting her, I struggle a lot with like, not yelling at her and not like being like, oh my gosh, you getting on my nerves and stuff like that, because that stuff deeply affected me as a child. A little of my background, I was born to a mother who's on drugs. I was adopted like an in-family adoption. So I wasn't even raised with my biological mom. I was raised with an aunt who I grew up calling mom. But she would never praise my things that I did right. But if I did something wrong, it was just the end of the world. Like, and it could be something small, like I waste something on my shirt and now you messy, I can't do nothing with you. Nobody ever like, and I was always a messy child, like, so nobody was ever gonna love me. I was gonna never be able to find a husband because I was messy. And that really, and I can't think of no other word, but that fucked me up. And I did not realize it until I became an adult and really until I became a mom, because I'm like, I cannot even, like, I perform for love. Like, I just would find myself being like extra giving. I find myself questioning my relationships, even with Casey, for example. Like, I have to tell myself, like, Casey loves me, like, Casey like me, like, because if I don't have that validation, I'm telling myself like nobody loved me, nobody liked me, because I just constantly kept hearing how bad I was, but nothing was ever praised good. And even now, as an adult, when stuff is praised good, it's hard for me to receive it for myself. It's hard for me to be like, oh, I'm smart. And I know I'm smart, but it's still like, it just makes me hide and not want to, share to the world. But one thing that I want to no longer be my burden is, a few years ago, I was raped by a family friend, and a lot of my family took the rapist side. And it wasn't like, oh, we believe him, but it was in ways of how they spoke to me, like, oh, I see why people don't believe you, or why would you do that? It just made me feel so bad. Like, it made me feel so horrible. And I really wanted to die. But I was already a mama too. So I stuck it out, but I cannot even remember the days of like caring for them because I had so much trauma. Like, when I think back to the time, I'm like, I don't even remember like what we ate or what we did. Like, it's like that part of my life is really blank. And I beat myself up now in the present as a mom, because I just know I was so angry. I was just so mean and so cold to them, because I just stopped talking to my family, so I didn't have no like physical support anymore. I cut off my support because I'm just like, I can't allow y'all to make me feel like the rape was my fault. And I'm like, and to be honest, y'all never really made me feel loved. Like, so that was just it for me. I was angry. Like, I'm like, oh, this will do it. It's like my inner child just came to the light. Like, that just brought Little Raven forward. Like, I'm like, oh shit, this remind me of how I felt when I was little. Like, nobody believed me. I was always doing too much. I'm getting blamed for something that's not even my fault. Nobody's protecting me. And it was like, my spirit was like, just protect yourself. And it was a long, long journey. And then, God sent people in my life now who loved me and wrapped me and care for me to get back. But I really want to leave my shame. I want to release that burden of feeling like shameful of things that was not my fault. Like, Raven, it was not your fault you was a crack baby. It was not your fault that you was yelled and screamed at, because I do understand that my aunt, who I call my mom, didn't have the tools to raise me, and that her snapping and that was trauma passed to her, being one of 17, being raised in Jim Crow era, all that type of stuff. But I want to leave the shame I feel of like, oh, during those days you was a bad mom, and just replace, because my kids are still young and I'm a really great mom, and just replace it with like, Raven, you did not have the support then, so you couldn't do your best, but you're doing your best now. And just keep going, because sometimes I just get in this cycle of shame of feeling like I'm just bad, and I'm really I just want to leave that in today and not take that forward, so I can continue to be a great mom to my kids, and a great partner to my partner, a great sister to my friends, because in my core of core I know that I am that. But it's hard for me to believe that sometimes, and it just really makes me, I can't think of another word but shameful. Like, you just want to hide, you don't want nobody to bother you, check on you, because you don't want to be honest. So I don't know if I answer like all the questions in one thing, but that was a release, and I'm just thankful that you brought forth these questions of death to help me dig to that place, especially because I'm about to fly here in a few weeks to see her grandkids for the holidays. And even that, right? Like, she'd be like, I can't wait to spend time with them. And I'm like, what about me? Like, do you not want to spend time with me? Like, why you only calling, checking on the kids? Like, I'm a person. Like, I am somebody. If it's not for me, they wouldn't even be getting raised. And it just makes me feel so bad. But I want to release, like, just be like, girl, that's just how that lady is. And like, if you're gonna deal with her in this relationship, that's just how she is. I really want to just, release that expectation and just radical acceptance, so I can move forward. Because I feel like that's just, holding me back. I made peace with it, but that was one of the questions. Have you made peace with it? And I said, yes, I have, but I still have this void, and I'm scared that it's never going to get filled, of having the parent that I desire, having a mom that I truly wanted as a child, somebody a little more soft, a little bit more gentle and receptive and open to let me be who I was, instead of trying to mold me and change me. I don't think I'm ever going to get that, and I've had peace with that, but I do wonder if I'm always going to feel a whole. But that's all. I don't want to keep ranting.
Wow, Raven, thank you for that transparency and that vulnerability, because I know that was not easy to just bear all of that in front of all of us. And I truly, truly, truly thank you for that. There's a whole host of things that I would love to dig in with you, but I know we're limited on time. But one of the things that I would like to encourage you to think about is the possible transference of what you experience, and making sure you resist the urge to silence your daughter's big energy. I know you said that you don't want to do that, and you're aware of it. Just be mindful. Look at her in a way as though she's a resource for you, a resource in making you feel happy. So when that big energy comes, it's just like, okay, this is probably the part of life that I never got to experience, but I'm going to allow her to experience. And so that in itself, so some people say you can't live vicariously through your children. There's some things that you can. If you see the happiness in your child and you're like, oh, I wish I could do this as a kid, but she's able to do it. Now, boundaries are everything. Okay. And if she's at a stage where she understands boundaries, make sure they're not they're not tight, because at the end of the day, what happens is when we're kids, we're told we could do every and anything. And then as we start to grow up, we're told, simmer down. And those big, wild dreams are crushed. And then we end up in a state where we are now is like, gosh, man, I feel so limited. I feel this. And so you don't want to pass that on to her. But also the second thing I wanted to kind of touch on is the expectation of your mom. You're right. You probably will never get her to be who it is that you want her to be. And so looking at it from a perspective of, well, she is who she is. And I know sometimes it's not fair, but understanding that if she's open to communication, it could change. A lot of times we place expectations on people and they don't even know we have these expectations. So we're constantly disappointing ourselves because we're like, they should be doing this, but how do they know they need to do it for us? If you've had these conversations with her and she's still not where, she's still not meeting your needs, then that's something that you will definitely have to process and become more self-confident within yourself. And it was said earlier, I can't pronounce her name. I'm so sorry, Mama. But she became what she didn't have. So that's what that healing process is all about. Healing is not a linear thing. It's not just straight to the moon on a unicorn. It is stages. It's all these things. But if you want to connect with me and we talk further, I will be happy to do that for you. And I again just thank you for laying that burden right here in front of us all to either just appreciate you more, learn you more, and honestly send you virtual hugs. That was very big of you. Thank you for that.
I love Raven to death, y'all. Oh, this girl. Yeah, go ahead now. We'll keep going.
Do you need to say anything else? Do you need to decompress? Do you need to, or is there someone else who needs to decompress?
I'm just grateful for you, Neff. I'm so grateful for you.
You know I love you, Mama. You know I love you.
Love you too. I think these questions were phenomenal, right? And I think as I wrote answers for myself, as I listened to Raven talk, as I read the chat, I realized a lot of these experiences were born out of safety. The yearning for safety, right? Like when Raven sees that in her daughter, she can't help but to try to protect her daughter from the evil she experienced because of her big personality, right? I know that when my grandmother told me at 5, you being fast in front of these men in the store, she in her best wasn't great, right? But she was trying to protect me from things that happened to her. I know that. I know that. When I think about the way transgenerational trauma shows up in my life today, when you ask that question about how does it show up with our partners, how does it show up with our other generations, I thought about my friends, right? My old friends, and I thought about who I was when I came into this relationship, and intimidation was the word I wrote down. My grandmother intimidated me. And for safety, that is what I do, right? I know that if I make you afraid of me, right? If I seem like the big bad wolf, as much as that hurt me, I feel safer, right? So I appreciate you for asking questions in ways that just literally stripped us down to nakedness, right? Where we can see ourselves better first, and then be able to see other people for the humanness that they have. I think it's fire, but I'm gonna be quiet. I'm just grateful. I think we do have a person that wants to come up, Neff.
Okay.
It is Kayla Life, so I'm gonna bring her up if you're ready for her. Good. Okay. I think that's a yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Day. Hello, main characters. I'm a little upset because the storm happened. The devil tried to keep me from here, but God knew I needed to hear this today because this topic has been coming up a lot for me recently about my mom and my relationship with my mom and how I'm dealing with that right now, and recognizing her as a person as opposed to my mom, and what experiences she was going through with me at the age of 24. I'm 30 right now. right? My mom had me at 24. She was getting her master's and she was a single mother, right? She thought that she was going to have this perfect picture kind of life. And then it flipped on its head when she was told by my biological father's mother that he had 3 other kids before her and she had no idea. So that kind of thing right now at 30, I'm imagining myself in her shoes.
Mhm.
And what she could have possibly been experiencing at that moment. I'm like, I can't even fathom having a child right now, period. Right? Like, I'm doing so much right now, and I can't fathom a child such as myself, rambunctious, loud, bigger than life, doesn't care what people tell her, gonna do her own thing anyway. And her life is literally flipping on its head. Right. And so a lot of those experiences that I realize I experienced is because she did the best she could with what she had. And one of the things that I mentioned in the chat was that I just did a reel about this, a YouTube short of, you know, my mom being my greatest superhero, but also my greatest supervillain. Like, recognizing that she wasn't perfect and subsequently meant that I wasn't perfect. And now I'm angry because I'm looking at you as my superhero and you don't have your shit together. What do you mean? Right? And so I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for the alignment. I'm grateful for us just recognizing that we do have a responsibility to change what we've experienced, and even recognizing that my mother was only trying to be better than her mother. And she was, right? Like, even recognizing what she went through and what she experienced and what her life story looks like. Learning my mom now at the age of 55, right? And she's freshly divorced, you know, it's a new experience for her. She's now experienced what she thought she should have been experiencing at 24. And so I'm experiencing that not just with my mom, but with Crystal. And it's some days it's like, you're all right, you're Crystal today, and that's who we're dealing with, and that's who we're going to talk to. And some days I do have to say, hey, I need my mom today. I need to speak to my mom today. And being okay with having that boundary of, like, right now is not a bestie type of situation. I need to talk to my mama because shit is going left and I need some comfort, right? It's okay to reel her in that way. But I recognize that in my own God gift of communication and relationship building, I also have background in mental health and, you know, all of that kind of thing. It's my responsibility only for my impact. Right. So while I'm in these conversations with her, and listening to her intently, and not because I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to get my next word in, but trying to figure out what it is that she's trying to express to me now in this adult age, you know, and how she's trying to even heal herself. Right. She's in therapy. And so there's things that she wants to share with me that she's never opened up to before, you know, things I've never understood. So it's been impactful. It's been interesting, but I also recognize that similar to Raven, I'm never going to have the relationship that I want with my mom, you know. And I think the added piece of that is that I have 2 younger siblings. My mom is like this with my younger sister. I and her are like, like we battle in between. So me recognizing that relationship and trying to figure that out, and then realizing that, you know what, whatever relationship I have with my mom is the one that I have, and one relationship my mom has with my sister is the one that she has, and my sister is not to blame for that, because I didn't realize I was holding up so much resentment towards my sister, who was just living life, you know. And I feel bad about it because I am in the middle. I'm in the middle on all sides. I have like 3 sides of my family. I have my mom's side, my biological father's side, and my stepfather's side, right? And so I realized, like, growing up, like, I'm in this space where I felt so isolated. I felt so alone because I'm the only one with a last name like mine, you know. I'm in a room full of people that are family, and I don't feel like family. And I felt like they moved me from my family, and I felt like they weren't caring about what happened to me. And now in my adult age, I'm like, wow, were just doing what they thought was best. They thought it was best for me to move. They thought it was better for me to have a new environment, to move me from what I knew. And they were right in a sense. but they are also wrong. And so that duality that happens with me, and even in when I speak about my mom, I said to one of my clients the other day, like, it's a sense of trauma for me and healing for me to say my mom wasn't a bad mom. I don't even know why I have to preface that when I'm speaking about her. It's almost like I'm trying to still protect her. They say that she wasn't horrible, but things were happening to me that weren't okay. And things that I wanted to happen in my own safety, right? In my own mental, things that I needed to have talked to me about as a child, or even as it now as an adult, that things they still won't talk about. I need that. And if I don't get that, I have to be okay with what that looks like. And I have to forgive myself in the process for even holding that kind of trauma over her, right? And so I appreciate this. I know that whatever was happening in this storm today caused me to just come in at this moment. Shout out to you, Casey. Shout out to everyone that's here. And thank you. Thank you for this space, and thank you for even this topic.
Thank you, Kayla.
Mama. Whew. Well, Neff, I appreciate you. This was everything. I knew it would be everything. And just so you all know, Neff is doing a journal wind down session tomorrow, because tomorrow, and it ain't even about motherhood tomorrow. It's not even about healthcare tomorrow. But baby, when I say we're going there, we're going there. Literally no longer my burden. We are hitting all of the dimensions of womanhood, right? Black womanhood. So tomorrow's gonna be a whole nother other thing. Okay. And we're gonna end the day with a journal wind down session called attachment. So definitely, y'all get what y'all need tonight. Hydrate, rest, all of these things that a medical professional could tell you better, but we got more ground to cover. Like Neff mentioned earlier, she does have a booth. Thank you, Nicole. She does have a booth, so if y'all want to kick it with Neff over in the Buy Black Market at her tables, definitely go over there. But there are a whole lot of folk out there waiting for y'all right now. Okay. Vendors, if you can hear the sound of my voice, use that feed now. Whatever y'all doing, whatever y'all giving away, whatever music y'all playing, whatever, use that feed at the top right so that folk can see you no matter where they are, okay? No matter where they are in the summit. If they're in the lounge, they can see you in the feed, okay? Number two, maybe this is number three. Never got me all dizzy over here thinking about my prompts. But number three, maybe, is if you all want to be notified when certain booths go live, when certain booths go live, go inside of their booth and just hit the notify me on the left side of their booth. Just hit the notify me button and you'll be notified when they're doing a broadcast in their space. Okay. And it's the final thing for real. And this is just a new challenge to y'all, because a lot of y'all want to connect and y'all acting scared. Okay. I'm gonna sound like my girl who was there earlier, Brittany, my St. Louis shawty. Y'all acting scared. Okay. Y'all use the feed too. If you know that you want to talk about such and such at 8 o'clock, drop it in the feed, man. Tell folk to pull up, right? If you want to meet up inside, now they didn't say this, but I'm telling you this. If you don't even want to meet inside a Neff booth at 7:30 because you feel safe in there, tell the people in the feed and y'all meet inside a Neff booth at 7:30. Okay. But definitely commune. This is free and open space. We are intentionally allowing y'all to roam as you please, because that is definitely in line with the summit. No longer my burden. We taking the chains off. Just take up space, man. Just be. That's all I got. I'm in Tanzania in East Africa, so it's 1 a.m. for me, so I won't be in any booths. I'm about to go sleep with my babe. But y'all enjoy, have so much fun. We'll be back here at the top of tomorrow, same time, 4 more days. We know we're near done yet. I love y'all, and I just want to close out by saying, Raven, I love you so much, sis. I love you, 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 sis. I'm so proud of you, not because of anything that you've done, but because you're here. You're here. Like the lifting of your finger is beautiful to me. The way you see the world is beautiful to me. The way your eyes dance when you laugh is beautiful to me. You are everything. I'm so proud of you because you're here. You're here. You're here. You're here. You won't get there late, sis. Whatever there is, you won't get there late. Don't worry. um, you'll be right on time every single place that your feet touch, every hug that you encounter in your life. I tell you it's a lot. I'm gonna tell you again, you've not met all the people in your life who are gonna love you. Okay, so just keep going, mama. All right, y'all. Neff has turned her camera off, so she's headed over to the booth. Y'all definitely go check her out. Okay, I'm going to bed. I'll see y'all in the morning. Love and light. Bye.